Well, a very good evening from the Meath Prefecture for round 3 of the Sim Racing Collective GT3 Super Sprint Season 2. It's the penultimate round on the calendar. And you join us live here at the virtual recreation of the Suzuka International Racing Course, first opened back in 1962. 5.8 kilometres, 18 turns, and is the only FIA Grade 1 listed figure of 8 track, alongside Fiorano, who was Grade 1 up until this year, was demoted to Grade 2. And you join myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and a very good evening to my partner in crime. Glad to be back alongside you for the first time in a while, Mr. Paul Glover. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Alex. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's ready for a great race around Suzuka. And as I was saying before the broadcast, one of my favourite tracks to chuck a car around, and I'm hoping for great racing this evening.
Yeah, so we are 30 seconds away from getting underway with what will be a full rolling lap of this 5.807 kilometre, 18 turn circuit, of course. The final trip on the calendar will be next week on May the 2nd at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya for round 4, which will decide our Season 2 Super Sprint champion. And what's more, the top 10 in the standings have been inverted. So effectively, where you stand in the championship standings is where you will start. But of course, we have a whole host of manufacturers: BMW, Ferrari, Aston Martin, and a sole lonely Porsche in this grid. So let's give you a rundown of the starting order. It's going to be Mav Gardner in the 805 BMW. We'll be joined by Michał Glanowski from Poland in the number 73 Ferrari. Paul Sims in the 42 Ferrari will be joined by the number 27 Aston Martin of Christian Rocci, with Antonio Ceretti in the number 10, being joined by the 58, and I'm going to try and get this name right, which is Giuseppe Capitonis Senselli, who ran at the top 6. Bartek Sobolski and Craig Foreman in the 19 and the 49, respectively, round out row 4. Dom Egner in the number 2 Porsche, joined on row 5 by James Wright in the number 11 Ferrari, and rounding out the 13 strong grid, Kasper Smiatana, Patrick Sidney, and Marcus Miller. Of course, Paul, you said that this is one of your favourite tracks. It is one of my favourite tracks. A lot of sideways lateral momentum changes here at Suzuka, but of course some great racing action provided through GT3, especially when this particular circuit is part of the GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS. Also makes part of the Japan Cup as part of a secondary championship within the championship, Super GT and Super Formula. But it really does provide some great level racing.
Yeah, it does, and it's quite a narrow track, though. So sometimes it's not necessarily about you making a move. It's sometimes trying to capitalise on a mistake, as we see the cars coming through the second Degner there, and you know that's a point where it's very easy as you come under the bridge there by the figure of 8 to run wide on the curb, and that's the thing. It's more of a traditional circuit here, isn't it? There's a bit of, not much of a runoff. There might be some sand that kind of hinder your acceleration, and as we're watching Mav Gardner at the moment, they come out that they're going to come towards the spoon curve, and the exit there is key because you're headed up to 130R all the way up that straight, and if you don't get that right, that exit, you're losing momentum. You're potentially susceptible. And that's not to say that you're necessarily going to go side by side through 130R, because we know what kind of corner that it is. But when you get to the chicane at the end, the final chicane, then you might have an opportunity to make a move, though it will be tight. So some of it will be a little bit of persistence, and it's trying to keep it clean. And if you keep it clean whilst having decent pace, you might gain a few positions.
So the format is a 40-minute sprint race, mandatory pit stop. The pit stop window will open with 10 minutes completed and close with 10 minutes to go. Mandatory fixed refueling time of 25 seconds, and there is no required tyre change. Of course, this circuit very abrasive on the tyres, as it will be the case of going through into 130R. Will anyone try and do it? Alonso versus Schumacher back in the early 2000s in Formula 1? Well, that remains to be seen, as Mav Gardner and Michał Glanowski line up on the front row of the grid as they head through the infamous Casio Triangle. If anyone might remember in the late 80s when a certain Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost came together whilst battling away as teammates for the World Championship that year. But we are under starters' orders. Track temperature 31 degrees Celsius, sunny and clear skies up above here at the Suzuka International Racecourse for round 3 of the Sim Racing Collective GT3 Super Sprint Season number 2. So they come out of last corner at turn number 18, and once they're given the green light, we will be underway here in the Mie Prefecture of Japan. So they are geared up, ready to go racing. Everyone's slowing to a crawl within the speed restricted on the rolling start. And the green lights get us underway here for round 3. It's the run down to first corner. Gardner leading ahead of Glanovsky at the moment. He's trying to go around the outside early doors. It's not one of the things you want to try and do on the first lap of a 40-minute race here, as it's Sims and Rocci side by side as they head into Snake for the first time. But Gardner's got a very, very early lead. Rocci and Ceredi are side by side, and Capitani Senselli also trying to get into the mix on that one. And they are all part of the same squad. But early doors here, Paul. Good start by Mav Gardner in the 805 BMW.
Yes, indeed, and also the car number 14, Sydney, now up into P9, and Wright just close behind has also made some good moves at the start further back. A couple of bits of dirt have come up, but generally it's been relatively clean, and it's good to see that cars are able to go side by side and giving each other enough room and respect.
So they head into the hairpin, also has been coined as Kobayashi Corner. If you might remember Kumiya Kobayashi. Oh, right, one of the cars has gone off track. That's one of the Aston Martins, and that's Craig Foreman in the number 49, who's dropped down to 12th position ahead of Marcus Miller in the number 44. Mav Gardner has an early lead as they come through out of Spoon Curve and go down the back stretch on this very long run down into 130. They're going to be pushing north of 235 kilometers an hour plus heading in, but Glanovsky right in the wheel tracks of Gardner going into 130R. Gap was about 0.2 of a second between them, but Gardner hangs it out a little bit. So does Glanovsky. Sims in third, Rocci in fourth as they go into the Casio triangle.
Oh,
yeah, he's gone deep. He's straight lined it. So straight away, Gardner has come under fire, and Glanovsky's going to get the race lead on the run down to first corner as you complete the opening lap. So Glanovsky leads the way by just 78 thousandths of a second. Gardner in the 805 and Sims in the 42 go wheel to wheel into first corner. Rocci and Senselli are there as well. So the two M4R racing cars, the M4R Squadra Corse teammates, side by side. You don't want to be doing that through the Snake Complex.
No, you don't. And some really good driving into T1. And the fact that Gardner wasn't able to make the Casio triangle, clearly that he decided, oh, there's a car around there. Is that the Ferrari of, is that Cincelli? Wasn't quite sure who that was.
Well, Dom Egner's just gone up. Yeah, James Wright.
James Wright, and also it looks like a bit of damage on the front of that Ferrari as well.
Yeah, that looks like it's been pebble dashed quite a bit by upcoming gravel and also contact with another vehicle. One of the Ferraris has gone off coming out of Degner 2, heading into in towards the hairpin. It's side by side a little bit further back. Smiatana from Midas Racing battling away with Ceredi in the number 10 car. As again, Craig Foreman hasn't quite adjusted his braking point yet for turn 11 at the hairpin. But Smiatana keeping Sobolski at bay. Paul Sims at the moment, fastest lap of the race, 2 minute 6.8 flat. Smiatana, Ceredi and Wright battle it out over 9th, 10th and 11th as they come through out of Spoon Curve for the second lap of this race. We're 6.25 minutes away from the pit stop window opening. Yeah. What have you seen, Paul?
So it looks like two of the Ferraris had a little coming together, which pushed, I think, which slowed them down. Unfortunately for Wright, he's then got into the back of one of the slower moving Ferraris. So I think it might have been Sobolski that was the slow moving Ferrari that got contact. So here we go. We've got the replay here. So you go, the little slight little nudge there, goes round, and then comes back on the track. Look, the Porsche, oh, he hits the Porsche, sorry. I completely missed that. So the Porsche has taken a evasive action, yeah, that's really unfortunate. Not a lot he could do there.
Yeah, it is that kind of problem that you have to deal with at the best of times and also at the worst of times. So it does go to show that sometimes you do really need to have your wits about you, especially around a circuit like this here at Suzuka. And that has been proof of the pudding, so to speak, Paul, because it just goes to show that we've seen multiple incidents over the first couple of laps, but Glanovsky at the moment is leading. Gardner's still in second as they come underneath the bridge out of Degner 2 for the third time. And it is quite close. Top four covered by probably around about a second or so.
Yeah.
Because Capitani Gencelli is not that far behind. Neither is Rocci in the number 27. He's actually closed up on his teammate from M4R Squadra Corse, but Smiatana still battling away with Ceretti in the battle for 9th place. Even with that damage on the front of that 296 GT3, James Wright is still keeping pace with them.
Yeah, it shows he's got some outright pace. You know, with as you say, even with that damage. But there's a couple of larger gaps here and there. But generally, there's some nice packs, isn't there, of cars. You know, P8 all the way down to P11, and as you say, the first top 5 are all nicely bunched together. It's nice to see the Porsche faring well as well with Egner at the wheel. He's currently around about 2 seconds off P5. So let's see. I saw him in the background as it came out one of the. Oh, there's
that James Wright
triangle.
Yeah, that's Antonio Cinetti and James Wright coming together. Wright was backwards and into the wall, it looked like.
Yeah, he's definitely come off worse there.
Yeah, he has, as Craig Foreman's just been passed by Marcus Miller in the number 44 Aston Martin at the tail end of the field. In the meantime, Zawolski up to 6th. Paul Sims was running P3 and is now down in 7th place. Zawolski has the fastest lap of the race so far in the number 19. Love the livery on that car. Nice bit of white and a bit of gold. Something a bit different on a 296.
Yeah, nice looking, nice little mix. It reminds me of something, but I can't quite put my finger on what it may be. It will come to me at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, you got 33 minutes to find that out, buddy. But yeah, sometimes there are things on the tip of your tongue. But Gardner against Glanovsky again gets through into the hairpin at Kobayashi corner.
The BMW just looks a bit more planted at the moment. It looks a bit more assured.
Yeah, the Ferrari does. I mean, I would have thought that the BMW, you know, very different engines. You know, you've got a V6 in the Ferrari. You've got a flat 6 in the BMW, then we've got the flat 6 in the Porsche, and then a twin-turbo V8 in the 3 Aston Martins at the moment. But,
God, under that pressure, though, from behind as well. He's got to be careful. It's so easy to be the attackee, and then to become the one that's being attacked if you don't get that attack right. So,
yeah, it is really closing up between the top 5 at the moment. You're looking at a gap of about 2.5 seconds as Glanovsky and Gardner. Well, Gardner went wide and has just lost out second into the Casio triangle. Capitani.
He's going to lose another position as well, by the looks of it, on the inside there.
Well, that was a brave move from Christian Rocci.
Door was open, and again, the Porsche is going to go through now as well.
Dom Egner in the Grello without the teeth marks on it. Porsche
makes an aggressive switch to try and make a move back on the Porsche on the inside. There's not a lot of room there.
And there's contact.
And there's contact.
Twice.
Yeah, I feel like the Porsche didn't really give him the room that I felt like he was entitled to there. But that's my opinion. Because the thing is that it's a tight track, and as we've always known when we do commentary, Alex, it's very important that you've got to have two to tango. Oh, actually, different perspective there. I've actually changed my opinion. He wasn't really alongside there, was he? No. From the other camera angle, he looked more alongside him at that point. But shows you, doesn't it? Perspective kind of changed.
Well, from that other secondary camera shot, big thank you to Kieran Sharp pressing the buttons for the broadcast direction here tonight. Yeah, Gardner was nowhere near alongside Egner and just literally punted him into the right rear going turn 1. and that was all she wrote. And then there was a secondary bit of afters, as Gardner's going to lose out 4th position to the current championship leader, Bartek Sobolski, as they go through 200R, and Gardner went over the curbs, and the back end bounced up and down in the air like a yo-yo on a bungee cord right then.
That is the one thing about this track, isn't it, Alex? Is there's these little bumps, like as you come out of the Casio Triangle, there's a bump there. As you try and get power down and to start finish straight, as we can see a battle behind, also with apologies, right, Egner and Sydney. You know, it's about learning. It's about knowing where those bumps are and trying to avoid them, or taking certain action to get better traction, like potentially going up into 2nd gear a little bit earlier and things like that as they now go into the Casio Triangle. And you can see like some of the cars are able to really ride the curbs, and the Porsche there got really unsettled, but has managed to get power down rather nicely, and he's in the slipstream.
That's one of the good things about the Porsche 911, is the fact that you've got that rear-engined, rear axle-driven flat 6 boxer variation, which has been a tried and tested method. And as they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's a bit like BMW with the flat 6s up front. You know, they both work really, really well. So Dom Egner trying to close on Patrick Sidney in the number 14 Ferrari. Mav Gardner still trying to do his level best to keep Sydney at bay, but that is the battle for P5 and P6. It's getting a bit closer between 2nd and 3rd at the moment, between the 27 Aston Martin of Rocci and Senselli in the 58 Ferrari, the 2 teammates. Glanovski's cantered away into the distance by about 1.5 seconds at the moment, as the pit stop window is now officially open as of 60 seconds ago. So the big thing is here now, Paul, we don't know any of the strategies that these drivers have decided to go in with. It's going to be interesting to find out how soon or how late in the pit stop window they decide to go into the box.
Well, yeah, as you touched on, there is a 25-second timer on the pit stop, so you want to try and use that to your advantage when it comes to you know, your fuel amount, for instance. I'm sure some of the drivers would have done a little bit of testing on that regard, and as you say, it's whether you decide to go your first kind of stint, you want to go shorter or longer, and but a lot of people tend to try and sort of find the middle ground and just go bang in the middle. So we may see that when the timer counts sort of halfway through the race. We might find many of the cars go in at that point. The next question is, do they take tyres or not, because it's not mandatory? Personally, I would take tyres here because, as you touched on, it's a very abrasive circuit. It's very demanding on the tyres, and you're not really going to lose much time compared, because there is a fixed pit stop time for the event.
Yeah, there is. So it is about just making the best of the situation that's presented in front of you. As
wobble there from the 14.
I was going to say, you were nearly jumping up and down in your seat.
Yes.
You there, Mr. Glover?
Yeah. Yeah. He teased me. He teased me. Yeah.
Gave you a little tickle. But no, I think it is going to be quite interesting. I mean, the top speeds at the moment, currently 268 kilometers an hour by our 2nd place driver, Cristian Rocci, in the number 27. The gap is not coming down by much. Chiarelli's now got did have the fastest lap. Sobolski's got that back. So we're running at around about a 2-minute lap time. And as
that gap's going to come down as well, isn't it? I think Sobolski's currently got the pace, as we see the move by Sydney on Gardner on this side. He's got the Porsche alongside as well. So Gardner's out on the grass, which is now going to put him under even pressure to lose P7.
Yeah, Chiarelli trying to go round the outside at 200R on the run to Spoon Curve. That is a brave move by the Italian driver, and gets late on the brakes. As he run a little bit wide, he will into the first bit of Spoon Curve, but then a little bit of a switch from the back end of Mav Gardner, and also from the front end of that BMW. It seems to be struggling a little bit, so Gardner was at the sharp end of the field, now drops down to what is 8th position. Not exactly what Mav Gardner had in mind when it came to running in this particular race of the season. Currently sitting 8th in the championship on 92 points at the moment. Patrick Sydney is a little bit further back.
Yeah.
So Sydney's not, he's on -5 at the minute. So yeah, so Foreman into the pit lane. Sims was in the pits, but that was not a mandatory stop. Chiretti goes into pit lane, so we're seeing the first. Touch
Oh,
between Egner and Sydney coming into the first corner, and Sydney held on to it.
yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness me, the man from El Plan Racing with the Fernando Alonso, well, the Asturias colours on that Ferrari, of course, paying tribute to the man, the myth, the legend, two-time Formula One world champion, current Aston Martin F1 driver who's extended his contract to the end of 2026 as an F1 driver. Whether that's going to be any longer, anyone's guess, because he still looks like a young whippersnapper at the age of 43.
Does. I was just about to say, and our race directors are on there. The battle for P3 is just hotting up. Sobolowski's showing some real pace at the moment, the championship leader, as you say. He takes us both in the same car, but takes a completely different line. A much tighter line there, which has allowed him to put him right on the back. So he's going to the hairpin. That's covered off quite nicely there, sort of planted the car right in the middle of the circuit. Doesn't really give him any options there, does it?
No, not really. I'm also now just taking a quick look at the pit stops at the moment. So Craig Foreman has pitted. Antonio Chiretti have also pitted. But looks like Craig Foreman, after 14 minutes of the race, has not rejoined. So looks like we have our first casualty of the evening. Paul Sims in the number 42 car did serve a pit stop with 8.25 minutes completed, but that does not go against your mandatory tally so far. So he's going to have to take another trip down pit lane, which is going to compromise his race as Egner versus Sydney through into 130R, and the Ferrari goes all four wheels and off track and then some. So does Garner in the BMW, and it's going to be oh, dearie me. Sydney was definitely the wise to sort of go, yes, I just flatlined it. I'm going to back on out of it and not give Dom any problem. Number 58, Ferrari of Capitani Senselli has just pitted. Yeah. So Glanowski now being you said about Glanowski. He's been closed in by Christian Rocci by a considerable margin, by 0.8 of a second on that last lap. So the battle for P1's really heating up, and also Sobolski's not that far behind either.
Indeed, yeah, he's got some genuine pace at the moment. So I'm guessing he's fueled quite later for the pit stop window that we'll see. He's clearly got some pace. Because of that, he's not taking any risks, which, you know, that kind of affords you that, doesn't it? If you've got outright pace, you're just waiting for the cars ahead to pit. But sort of watching the battle, Klanowski there has run a little bit wide, hasn't it, and just kind of put him under a bit of pressure from the Rocci in P2. So, but as you can see, our championship leader is closing ever present, and he'll be joining this battle very, very shortly.
Yeah, Glanowski's currently on 100 points in 7th. Rocci's currently 5th in the championship standings, only 8 points behind Sobolski. So it is becoming Rocci's becoming the Aston Martin meat and the Ferrari sandwich right now here at Suzuka with 12 minutes and 20 seconds to go until the pit stop window closes officially. So you really need to be in with about 2.5 to 3 minutes to go, as there is a possible overtake happening between Egner and Sydney. Sydney looking up the inside, early doors down the backstretch into 130R. Egner says, no, you don't. I'm going to be back on the racing line. And all three drivers this time make it through without circumventing track limits significantly, but Egner goes straight on. Glanowski pits, and so does Sobolski. So the two... Sobolski was so late on the brakes and managed to jump Glanowski in that phase of the pit stop. That was a psychological move if ever I saw one.
Yeah, I hope he managed to get the car slowed down enough, though. Time will tell as when he exits the pits, or we'll be told if there is a drive-through or a stop-go 30 for speeding. So time will tell. But it looked like Rocci there didn't quite stop in his box as well as the championship leader. So the game kind of moved him back. So he would have lost a bit of time there, unfortunately. Or he'd obviously lost the position as they entered the pit. So yeah, interesting time. So Rocci at the moment, sorry, Rocci is still out on track. So who was the other car then? That was
it was Sobolski and Glanowski.
Yeah, Glanowski, sorry, yeah. So yeah, interesting on that pit entry there. So Rocci now leading the race. I expect to come in very, very quickly because the undercut is quite strong here as we watch championship leader exit the pits.
Yep, so Savalski jumps Glanovski in the pit lane by one of the most,
Yeah.
how can I say it, he was filled with cojones at that point. He decided to dart round the outside on the entry into pit lane and got the job done.
Timed it to perfection, Alex. That was.
Well, you've got
I've
to have
never
some,
seen that before.
neither have I, neither have I.
Yeah.
He had some stones to do that significantly, but, you know, had the presence of mind, thought, yeah, there's
Yeah.
enough room for another Ferrari 296 GT3, and threaded the eye of the needle, got the job done, dropped down off of the air jacks a couple of seconds before Glanovski, who is going to probably who is a little bit further behind at the moment, to the tune of about, waiting for the sector times, well, he's lost about 4 seconds.
Race leader into the pits.
So, Rocci coming into pit lane. Then it's going to be a case of seeing when Sydney, Gardner, Wright, and Sims, who all still have to circumnavigate a pit stop with 9.5 minutes to go.
Well, they've gone past, so Sydney and Gardner have carried on. So we're looking at we're doing 2-minute 2:01 laps at the moment. So, you know, as long as they've got that time on the board when they go to cross the finish line, they'll be able to get in and clear their mandatory pit stop. It's always a bit of a risk to push that to the limit because you never know, you could make a mistake and spin, and you lose that time that you've got, that cushion. So I don't know about you, Alex, but are you a risk taker? What would you do?
I think probably if it's a 20-minute pit window, the best thing to do is if you are fueled longer, go until it hits 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to leave it any later than that. If you're leaving it to 2.5 to 3 minutes to go, if you have a drive-through, if you have a stop go 30, if you have an issue when you rejoin, then you haven't got a way in which you can counteract it. So from that perspective, you have to use discretion as the better part of valor there, Paul. And with 8.5 minutes to go, we've still got
Gardner's taken the lead, by the way.
Oh, so
what's I think there was an off.
Sydney, yeah.
Yeah. So I think Sydney had a moment.
Well, he's just had another moment because he's just come through the first part of Spoon Curve and got a bit deep into the corner and used all of the AstroTurf around the outside of the curbing as Sydney's got to drive through too many track limits. Sydney has not yet served his drive-through penalty. That's 2 trips through the pit lane, and that is going to cause him even more drama. Possibly for even going for, let alone a top 3, maybe even a top 5 finish. So Sydney's got to serve that within 3 laps. So he's got to serve that quickly, and then he's got to come in the very next lap to serve that pit stop. So he's the first one to come across basically because of the Suzuka track limits.
Yes, yeah. So just looking at the replay, he went through the S curves and then as on the kind of the approach to Dunlop curve, which is very easy to do. I think he's probably put the power down a little bit too early, and he's run wide and he's turned his car into a lawnmower.
Oh,
he kept it out of the wall, but that's where the position was lost.
Okay, so Gardner and Sydney are in the pits. Now, Sydney could do one of 2 things. Serve the drive-through as James Wright battling away with Dom Egner. Look at the front of that Ferrari.
Yeah.
He's just got off at Spoon, rejoined alongside Egner, and there's a bit of afters as well for good measure. Oh, dearie me. And they've got Smiatana closing in on their 6 very, very quickly. Paul Sims yet to serve his pit stop, and he's got 6 3/4 minutes to do so. So Sydney has served the drive-through, has got the race lead, and now will have to do the mandatory pit stop. I would say next time round. He can't chance it now.
No.
So Gardner's in 3rd, Rocci in 2nd.
Sabalski!
Oh, into the side of Senselli at turn 1. The points leader causes himself and Senselli a big, big problem. Senselli's not going to like that one. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of explanation in Italian in the Discord chat post-race, and also a very heated protest after that incident through Savalski's manoeuvre up the inside. But there is Antonio Seredi just behind in the number 10 car. So Senselli is going to drop quite a way back after that. And Sobolski currently P3, whether that is going to stand at the end of this race. Still 5 3/4 minutes to go until the pit stop window closes, and then we'll have 10 minutes of flat-out GT3 racing around Suzuka here at round 3 of the GT3 Super Sprint Season number 2 here on the Sim Racing Collective. You're watching either on the TSRC YouTube channel or also on the JP Broadcasting Network as well whilst you're at it. So if you haven't subscribed or liked and shared and also hit the notification bell on both channels, please feel free to do so. It's one simple click for you, but it's one click that is very, very important to both parties. 5 minutes to go here, and Patrick Sidney is really eking out this as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, he's struggling as well. He's just made contact with the wall into 130R. He's been struggling throughout this lap. Just a lack of grit for Sidney. He's just had a really big moment, Alex. And he's just coming into the Casillo triangle now, and I expect him to. He's struggling to keep the car straight by the looks of it. So yeah, quite a hefty impact, unfortunately, for him.
Cristiano Rocci now takes the race lead, so Sidney might not just get fuel in the car, but I think that could be the case that his race, being in the top 5, is out and done and dusted. He might opt to go with a new set of tyres on that Ferrari 296. There's Mav Gardner from MSL Racing, the 805.
Needs more than new tyres.
I think he needs. He's going to need a lot of gaffer tape.
Yeah, it's going to require a lengthy pit stop, I'm afraid, for him.
Yeah, that's a real shame for Patrick Sidney. We saw some great battles between him and Dom Egner a little bit earlier on in the race, but we are coming down to the final 4 minutes of this pit stop window. There's Mav Gardner being chased down by Michael Glanowski in the number 73 Ferrari.
So Sims has gone to clear their mandatory pit stop now with just over 3.5 minutes on the pit window left. So that'll be everybody clearing their mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, apart from Craig Foreman, who did his mandatory pit stop, whether he was... Oh, and Egner's got a drive through, another one that's succumbed to track limits. It gets to you and I both know when it gets to like the last half of a race.
Yeah.
You really do see mistakes happening.
Yeah, you do, and it is one of those tracks. Like, you know, I touched on about running wide, but it really escaped me about the track limits. And I did a race in another league, the second to last round, and you know, it's good to say, oh, Joe, I thought there was going to be contact there. Oh, that was close. I thought Wright was going to get tapped from behind, but yeah, it is one of those tracks where could really start to push and make those mistakes, but it's very easily avoidable if you just lift off, right? It's if you realise you've run wide. Sometimes it isn't easy when you're in the cockpit to understand you've run wide, but when you have, just lift off and you'll likely escape. And I'd rather not have to do a drive through, lose a position than having to do the whole trundle through with the pit limiter on through the pit lane and lose a bunch of time. So this battle's really heating up in front of us. I thought, like I say a moment ago, I thought they were going to come together. So down into T1 they go. Yeah.
Wright versus Smiatana for 8th place. Egner has managed to come out in front of them. He's about 5.5 seconds up the road in 7th position. Well, hasn't yet served the drive through as Gardner round the outside. Was that going to be close on Sobolski? Nearly got the job done through Dunlop. Well, Mav Gardner, I think, did Sobolski go off? And have
he made a mistake into T1. He had a spin. So I've just looked at it because I was like, how did Gardner get past, you know, the man that seems to have some genuine pace? So he into T1 all by himself, just spun it round, and Gardner then took that opportunity, and Sobolski's managed to get that position back.
Yeah, of course. I think, you know, Sobolski having that bit of 2 and 8 with Capitone Senselli earlier on in the race hasn't helped himself that much, even considering the fact they're only 1 point apart coming through into this penultimate round of the season. We've got Barcelona on May 2nd in just 7 days' time. But the pit stop window, the timer is counting down. Everyone has cleared their mandatory pit stops here at Suzuka. So now it is a run to the checkered. Here at this circuit, 5.807 kilometers, 18 corners and all. And there is the race leader, Christian Rocci, who currently is 5th in the standings. This will help him big time.
Yeah.
When you look at it, 65 points for a win as per the TSRC usual scoring system. But the M4R Squadra Corsa is leading a 1-2. Antonio Ceretti is not that far behind. He's about 4.4 seconds adrift. New fastest lap, I think looks to be Paul Sims has just come up purple. Even though Dom Egner has set a 1 minute 59.930 in the Porsche. So the Porsche really starting to stretch its legs, but Egner now serves his drive-through penalty after a couple of laps of being back out on track.
Yeah, I'd imagine he probably didn't. That wasn't a valid lap, which is why it hasn't been given fastest lap. Hence why he's got a drive-through to complete from pushing track limits. Sobolski though showing some pace, and as you can see, he lost around about 7 seconds in the lap that he lost because he did a 2:08.2 last time round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there is James Wright continuing the battle with Kasper Smiatana, the 213 teammate to Glonovsky, judging by the livery on that car. But James Wright holding on to 7th position in the minute. We are coming down to the final 9 minutes and 20 seconds of this third round of the Super Sprint GT3 season here for Sim Racing Collective.
We lost the Porsche.
Oh, dearie me. Dom Egner has called time on his race. I think after the drive-through penalty for the track limits, I think that's him deciding, you know what, I'm not going to take any further part in this, but it is an M4R Squadra Corsa 1-2. Aston leading Ferrari as the 27 of Christian Rocci comes through the Casio triangle. Last time around set a 2 minute 1.627.
Just lost another car, didn't we?
Oh, we have indeed.
10 left. Yeah.
Oh, they are falling a little bit by the wayside. So that lap time, 2 minute 1.9 for Christian Rocci. So that'll give us around about, I would probably say, another 4, maybe 5 laps. So 5 laps, I would say, probably at a push.
Yeah. So it's funny how we went for a race where there was multiple battles. We're just left with the one at the moment between these two, battling for P7, giving us many entertainments. But you can just see like it is hard to. It's like I mean, T1 is a tricky corner for me, and I completely understand how spins happen because you're trying to push your luck when you're going into T1 because it's trying about carry as much speed as possible. And as you enter, and then you realise, oh, I carried a little bit too much speed, and you're going round and facing the other way. And luckily, there's a lot of runoff there, so you're generally not into the wall. But good to see, like you say, a 1-2 for the Italian team, and it's good to see the Aston Martin leading the way as well. I don't see that very often these days.
No, it's the Aston Martin V8 Vantage twin turbo doesn't really get as much love as it used to, let's say 2-3 years ago, maybe even 4. So yeah, but Sobolski just trying to bring the car home, has been involved in a couple of 2-8s this evening, but still holding on to that 3rd place in the number 19. Napier Dalac Ferrari 296 GT3. So we're about to complete lap number 16. Christian Rocci doing an absolutely sterling job. Sobolski now makes his way through the Casio triangle and then through last corner here at turn number 18 and starts accelerating in the Ferrari 296. The car got a lot of love when it was announced as part of the Assetto Corsa Competizione DLC. And seems to be a firm favourite in the lineup of cars that we currently have on the platform, which do variate from the old school GT3s from about half a decade ago to the now and present that we will see on the Fanatec GT World Challenge. Europe powered by AWS, also over in the US, also in Japan and Australia. And yeah, it's a good little workhorse. But here is the battle for 4th place. Mav Gardner being closed in by Michał Glonowski in the number 73 Ferrari. Gardner was very, very feisty early doors in the race, but what you don't want to do through the Snake complex there, Mav, is clip the grass coming through Snake and heading into Dunlop. That's going to cost him a little bit of time.
Yeah, and also it can also unsettle the car at times. He might have had to make a bit of a correction there as we go into and through the second Degner. So up towards the hairpin. How does the car look on the brakes? It's kind of, I use the reference of the end of the curbing on the right hand side into the hairpin. But again, you see a lot. It's so easy to go deep there. You see it very, very regularly, and you just leave that door open. But at the moment, the BMW for the particular sector seems pretty strong.
It does. It does have its quirks, does the BMW, as does the Ferrari. So we are into the final 5 minutes. Now the gap between Rocci and Ceretti now drops again, 2.7 seconds. So it seems like the 296 is starting to get into its zone a little bit more here, Paul. And for the main reason being...
Oh, he's round again. He's had a moment.
Cebulski, that was coming out of 130R, so Cebulski has just lost 3rd place. He's dropped to 5th. Disaster for the points leader. And that means Senselli, if he gets a little bit... We can have a look at the replay here. So into 130R, probably pushing above 245 kilometers an hour. Hits the grass, and he's scootly sideways through 130R and manages to hold it, keep it out of the barriers. No damage done, but probably has overcooked the tyres.
Yeah, you can see he hit the curb, which completely unsettled the car. Probably trying to be a little bit too aggressive there, trying to, because he had he still had a chance of gaining on P2, but now he's ruined that opportunity. So yeah, it's a shame. So has made a mistake there, and early in the race made a mistake into T1. If he can sort of not make those mistakes, he'd be in a much stronger position coming towards the end of the race. Might even have been in the lead.
In other words, Cebulski did a bit of a boo-boo there, didn't he? Just completely misjudged the entry point into 130R, and then it just all went completely wrong. Gardner and Glonowski battling over what is now the final step on the rostrum with 3 minutes and a quarter still to go. Cebulski might still be in this.
Indeed.
But Capitani Senselli not too far behind him either after that big old spin for the number 19 Ferrari. We've got 3 minutes on the timer to go, and just keeping an eye on our race leader. Rocci's now making his way down the backstretch heading into 130R. What could be the second from last time, as we are on lap 18 of this race so far. Race leader now makes his way through into the Casio Triangle. Mav Gardner being followed by Michał Glonowski. Cebulski not too far behind, only 1.1 seconds adrift as they fire it through 130R. And Glonowski goes very wide. And now, look, this is going to be the battle right up until the end. The race leader is going to be 2 laps to go. So we are going to hit 20 laps at the checkered. So Rocci leading, Ceretti is closing in. That gap has gone down to around about 2 seconds. And Ceretti's taking about half a second a lap out of Rocci. But the M4R Squadra Corsa team will not want to get rid of a potential 1-2, as we are under 2 minutes remaining.
Yeah, there's a few cars back, potential for P4 here, aren't there? All the way down to P6.
I think it could even be as high as P3. Senselli.
Oh yeah, of course.
Senselli needs to actually get past Cebulski, because then that could be a possible change in the standings come the end of this 3rd round before we go to the finale in a week's time at Barcelona on May 2nd. Race leaders now coming through Kobayashi corner at turn number 11. Here's the battle for P3, so 3rd, 4th and 5th. Gardner, Glonowski and Cebulski battling it away, covered by about 1.1 seconds. And the Ferraris look to be a little bit more planted. And Cebulski has really closed up on Glonowski. So Glanovski's really got to watch his P's and Q's right now. Gardner's just got to keep it on the straight and narrow. Sobolski's got nothing to lose and everything to gain as we hit the final 60 seconds. Race leaders coming down the back stretch out of Spoon Curve and then into 130R. That gap looks to be dropping again. 1.5 seconds between Ciretti in second and Rocci in first as they are now about to head through the Casio Triangle. Meanwhile, we concentrate on this battle for P3. And they are covered by next to nothing. You can cover them by an A4 sheet of paper and still have over and more than enough as Sobolski goes very wide out of 130R. Right into the wheel tracks of Glanovski through into the Casio Triangle for what is the penultimate time. Last lap underway. Rocci has got a 1.6 second lead over Ciretti. Gardner, Glanovski and Sobolski will be battling to the death and to the checkered flag. Who will get P3? 1 lap to go.
Yeah, indeed. So into T1, it's kind of like try not to take too many risks here. It's so easy to overcook it and try and go for a move that isn't on. As we stick with this trio, as you say, the race leader is on the final lap of the race. You just want to sit behind the car here. You can try and make it up through the Dunlop curve. You can just get a really good exit. And as you can see, side by side now, the two Ferraris. Sobolski's trying to make the move. He's got the inside line. Is he given the room? He backs out of it, which I think was the smart move there. But that's allowed Gardner just a little bit of breathing space.
It has. I mean, the thing was Sobolski should have just stayed in the wheel tracks, not be impatient. You know, there's that sign of desperation. There's also that sign of urgency.
Slides, yeah.
Slides from Sobolski coming out of Stegner 2. And now he's going to be pushed to the outside, going into the hairpin at Kobayashi Corner. Here at turn 11, he's still got a chance around the outside. Can he get the crossover? The answer's a no on that one. Gardner's got more daylight at the end of the tunnel. That's probably going to be close to a second gap between Gardner and Glanovski. As the race leaders, we need to start concentrating on them now. And there it is. It's the formation by M4R Squadra Corsa with Christian Rocci leading the way. Antonio Ciretti in the Ferrari in the number 10, rounding out the top two. It's going to be a welcome result for the Italian team as into the Casio Triangle for the final time here on lap number 20. One more corner to power out of, and the winner for round 3 of TSRC GT3 Super Sprint Season 2 here at Suzuka, it's Christian Rocci from M4R Squadra Corsa and Antonio Ciretti.
There's contact in the Casio Triangle as Sobolski tries to make the move. I think he should have given that position back, but the stewards will have to take a look at that.
Gardner takes P3 in the 805 MSL Racing. Sobolski gives the position back to Glanovski. Sobolski takes 5th. Then we've also got Giuseppe Capitoni Senselli rounding out the top 6. James Wright will hold off Kasper Smiatana from Midas Racing for 7th at the flag. Marcus Miller from Crockbait Racing, the 44 Aston Martin, ran his own race and still gets it home in the top 10, taking P9. We've got one more driver still to cross the line, and that is going to be ST Racing's Paul Sims in the number 42. It's been a difficult race for him tonight, having to do a pit stop with just over 8 minutes of the race completed as he makes his way down the backstretch into 130R for the 20th and final time. And on lap 13, we lost both Dom Egner and Patrick Sidney. Craig Foreman we lost on lap 5, but Paul Sims makes his way out of the Casio Triangle, accelerates in the Ferrari 296 GT3 here at Suzuka, and is the last classified finisher across the line. 10 out of 13 cars finishing, with Christian Rocci, Antonio Ciretti rounding out the top 2. A great result for the M4R Squadra Corsa team. Mav Gardner for MSL holds on to P3, finishing 2 seconds ahead ahead of Mikhail Glanovski, with Bartek Sobolski and Giuseppe Capitoni Senselli running out the top 6. James Wright, Kasper Smiatana, Marcus Miller and Paul Sims round out the finishing order. Egner, Sidney and Foreman retiring at earlier stages of the race. A couple of comments in Italian in chat. I dare not translate them at the moment, reference Sobolski's actions. But Paul, what a great race here at Suzuka for round 3 of this TSRC GT3 Super Sprint for season 2.
Indeed, yeah. As we touched on, one of my favourite tracks, allows for some great racing, but it also, you're having to show some patience. And I think, watching some of the collisions this evening, I think that wasn't what some of the drivers wanted to give, or have even. So, but no, some great stuff, great action. And as we saw, drive-throughs became a thing because people were pushing those limits. But I'm a big fan of Suzuka, and I always look forward to commentating here. And also, been great back in the hot seat alongside yourself, Alex.
Hopefully, it's not too long before the next time. But, folks, there's a lot of action coming up for TSRC. We've got F4 Sprint Season 2, Round 4 tomorrow night at Fuji Speedway. That's going to be an absolute barnstormer. For those JP Broadcasting fans out there, we've got the Radical Race Series, Round 7, Season 2 at Interlagos coming up shortly. The Xfinity Talladega Super Speedway for the Triple Bypass League at about 10 to 2 in the morning tomorrow. The Virtual World Sports Car Championship 2024, 90 minutes to Spa, happens this coming Saturday evening. And then we got the OGRL Coffee Cup Season 1, Round 10 at Sebring, IFL Super Formula Lights at Zandvoort, IGP Fun Round 7 for Super Formula Lights Season 2 at the Hungaroring. We've got the BSC Spring Season, Round 12 at Kansas Speedway, and of course, Sim Racing for Simpletons, Round 4 at the Hungaroring. Of course, you can catch up with the season finale of the GT3 Super Sprint Season 2 here on TSRC next week, 8 p.m. on May the 2nd at Barcelona. So on behalf of Paul Glover, Kieran Sharp, who's been pressing the broadcasting direction buttons tonight, and myself, Alex Goldschmidt, thank you very much for joining us. So, race hard, race fair, and if in doubt, flat out. We'll see you next time. Good night.